In this video, we'll look at the appealing to purse fallacy. We'll start by describing the fallacy, looking at the form of the fallacy, talking through some examples of the fallacy, and then finally talk about some reasons people usually cite or reasons why they might commit the fallacy. The description of the fallacy is pretty straightforward, and when you hear it, you might say, well, why would anyone ever commit this fallacy? Because it seems so obviously fallacious. Basically, what happens is people will reason from the fact that an individual has a certain amount of money to the fact that it's likely what they say is either true or false. So one example would be reasoning from the fact that there is a rich person and they say something is the case to the conclusion that it must be the case because the rich person said it. This argument goes by, or this fallacy goes by a number of different names. Sometimes people will say it's appeal to poverty or appeal to money or appeal to wealth. So depending on how you use it, it might have a different name. But here we'll just call it the appeal to purse fallacy. Obviously, this is fallacious. The reason is because the mere fact that you have a certain number of dollars in your bank account doesn't make what you say more or less likely or more likely to be true or false. So let's look at the form of the argument. I think there's 4 ways you might express this fallacy. And so let's look through all 4 of them really briefly. The first is if an individual, let's call that individual A, says that a particular proposition, which we'll call P, is true. And then we cite the fact that the individual is rich, they have a lot of money, and reason to the conclusion that what they say is either true or likely true, or we have a good reason to believe what they say is true, given the fact that they have money. Let's look at the second form. The second form starts with the first premise, which says person B says a particular proposition, which we'll call P, is true. And then we cite the fact that person B is poor. And because that individual is poor, we're going to reason to the conclusion that what they're saying is likely the case, or is true. We have a good reason to believe what they say is the case because they're poor. So in each one of these forms, we're reasoning from the fact that either an individual has a lot of money to the conclusion that what they're saying is true, or very little money to the conclusion to what they're saying is true. The other 2 forms just do the reverse. We reason from the fact that an individual is rich to what they're saying is likely false, or we reason from the fact that someone is poor to the fact that what they're saying is false. So this just, rather than saying that, your wealth makes what you're saying more likely to be the case, instead we're saying that your wealth makes what you're saying more likely to be false. So it goes the other direction. Now, not everyone's committed to all of these forms. Not everyone commits each one of these, but you might commit some selection of them. You might think, you know what? I think when a rich person says something, it's more likely to be the case. Or if a poor person says something, it's more likely to be the case. So all 4 versions of this argument are invalid. An individual can be rich or poor, say something is the case, and because they have a certain amount of money doesn't make what they say any more or less likely. This is because the amount of money you have doesn't influence the truth or falsity of what you say. So after making this video, I thought of an interesting thought experiment that helps illustrate why this argument is so fallacious. And it's something to kind of keep in mind. So let's say you and I have a difference of opinion upon a particular tree. I think it's an apple tree. You think it's an elm tree. And so we disagree. And let's say you are rich and I'm poor. And so if we buy into the idea that because you're rich, what you say is likely to be the case, we would say that you'd be correct about the type of tree that it is. It would, be more likely to be an elm tree than an apple tree. But let's suppose that you all of a sudden just gave me all of your money. Well, this would change the likelihood of what I said. Before, it was your position that was maybe more likely to be true, or that its likelihood has gone up, or we have a good reason for believing. And my position that was, maybe we shouldn't believe what I say because I'm poor. But now that you've just given me all of the money, now my position is somehow more likely. This strikes us as counterintuitive. We would think that the likelihood of the tree being one variety over the other has nothing to do with the amount of money that we have. And we wouldn't think it would shift around given a kind of transaction between us. We could, make it extreme, we could pass the money back and forth, and that would change the likelihood of the tree being one variety of it or another, which would be completely absurd. I'd say at first glance, though, you might say, well, this fallacy looks completely ridiculous. Who would ever accept this or commit this fallacy? But I would contend that quite a number of people do commit it in specific circumstances or contexts. The context I'm thinking about are financial gurus, people who give out or dole out financial advice, and they profit from this. So an individual, let's say they're a financial guru, they are known for being a financial quote-unquote expert. They say, well, now that we're in this crisis, you should max out your credit card. Get as many credit cards as you can, and just, use that money to buy all sorts of types of things. I've actually seen one financial guru who is well known actually give this type of advice. And so an individual might reason, well, that financial guru is rich, they have a lot of money, therefore I should follow their advice. I should max out my credit card, as many credit cards as I can during a particular financial crisis. This argument, of course, is fallacious. Just because this so-called guru is rich, has a bunch of money, has had a bunch of success, doesn't mean the conclusion follows. That is, the first premise can be true, that is, they gave this advice. The second premise can be true, that is, they do have a lot of money, but the conclusion can be false. That is, you should not follow their advice by maxing out your credit card. But you might say, well, they're rich. Their richness has to be linked to their financial wisdom. No, not necessarily. Their richness might be due to some other reason, maybe because they are experts at scamming people into following their bad advice, and they make a bunch of money off of, swindling people through their book sales or something along those lines. So my contention is that a number of people actually commit the appeal to the purse fallacy whenever they follow the advice of the rich, simply because those individuals have a bunch of money. You say, oh, you have a bunch of money, therefore you tell me to do X, Y, or Z. Okay, just because you have that amount of money, I'll follow your advice. That's a good reason to accept what you say is true. Another version of this fallacy is when individuals disparage the poor. They say, well, if the poor people think that something is the case, then it can't be right. So here would be one type of example. Premise 1, poverty is a real problem in this country that needs to be fixed. This could be a proposition that someone asserts. The second premise would be that most of the people who believe this particular statement, that poverty is a problem that needs to be fixed, or some kind of remedy for fixing it, the people who suggest this, these are poor people. And because they're poor, because they don't have a lot of money, well, whatever they're saying must not be a very good idea. So it reasons from the fact that a group of individuals are poor to the conclusion that we shouldn't believe whatever they're saying, or what they're saying is not likely to be the case. But again, this is a fallacy. The first and second premises can be true, while the conclusion can be false. So just because the poor people believe or don't believe something doesn't give us a reason for accepting or not accepting the truth of the conclusion. Before diving into some reasons why people might commit this fallacy, I think it's worthwhile to point out one caveat. That is, there's some actual empirical research that sometimes people cite and say, look, when we investigate poor and rich people in terms of their reasoning power or their likelihood to make good or bad decisions, there seem to be some differences. And the differences usually cited is that rich people tend to be better at abstract reasoning than poor people, while poor people are better at these kind of wisdom-related practical decision-making procedures or tasks. And so you might say, well, if a rich person believes a particular proposition is true, and that particular proposition is about some abstract topic, then this particular proposition is likely to be the case. Okay, so this looks like it's supported by science, various experiments. What would be wrong with this? There's a number of problems with this, including problems maybe with the empirical research itself. But the problem I want to point out is that just because you are better than someone at a particular reasoning task doesn't make your reasoning any good. That is, you might be able to say that rich people tend to draw better conclusions than poor people about really abstract matters, but it doesn't mean that, statistically, the conclusion you draw is any good. It could be the case that both rich and poor are terrible at reasoning on certain matters, And so you shouldn't accept the truth or falsity of what they say just because one individual tends to be better than another individual. Okay, so let's look at some reasons why people might actually commit this fallacy. And I want to look at two different reasons. So the first reason is that some people think that poor people are likely to be wrong, since if you are smart, then you will be rich. This is captured by the sentiment that you sometimes hear when people say, well, if you're so smart, why aren't you rich? The second reason why you might commit this fallacy is sometimes people will say that if you are poor, you're more likely to be honest, and if you're honest, you're more likely to say true things. So let's look at both of these reasons. The first reason is that poor people are not smart, since if you are smart, then you also will be rich. This is grossly mistaken. It's false, because not all intelligent people are rich. Some intelligent people simply pursue endeavors that don't lead to monetary wealth. They aren't thinking of ways and using their intelligence strictly to gain a fortune. Other individuals are very intelligent, but their pursuits, which have some financial benefit, simply don't work out. So the example that's often cited for an individual who was extremely intelligent but also very poor would be Nikola Tesla. So let's look at the second reason now. The second reason is that, well, if you are poor, then you are more likely to be honest, and therefore what you're saying is more likely to be the case. There's a kind of Pew study that sort of suggests this idea as well, because when people were asked how likely rich people are to be honest, the sentiment was that 34% found them to be less likely to be honest than, let's say, poor people. Most, just to note this, had no opinion on the matter. They thought, like, well, wealth is irrelevant to telling the truth. But, there is a kind of sentiment here that rich people are more likely to lie and poor people are more likely to tell the truth. The objection, though, to this is that this kind of makes a confusion. There's a confusion between being honest and saying what is truthful. That is, saying something that is factually the case. In order to be honest, you simply have to say what you believe to be the case. But in order to utter a true proposition or utter a proposition that is likely to be the case, you have to actually assert what is the case. So you can imagine being poor and saying something you believe to be the case. You say the sky is green or the grass is orange, and you believe this to be the case. Well, as long as you believe it to be the case, then you would be being honest. But of course, you would not be saying something that is true. Instead, you'd be saying something that is false. And so just because you're honest doesn't make you more likely to express true things. So in short, honesty and truth-telling are two different things. So this was the appealing to purse fallacy. As always, I'm interested to know if you have some examples of this. So if you do, I'd love to read them down in the comments below, and I will see you next time.